Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 56 of Adeptus Podcastus. And joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Hello everyone.
And our special guest this week. We're sorry we couldn't announce this because we literally didn't have it booked at the time of the last episode. But straight out of the Black Library, none other than Aaron Dembski-Bowden.
Top of the morning.
Is it Bowden or Bowden, just so I don't get it wrong again?
It's 50-50, depending on who's saying it. So I'm fine with either.
Fine. All right, that's good to clear up. So yeah, we got ADP, guys. That happened. Not sure how that happened, but it happened. I've got to be honest, minor fan moment, because I think you were the first author I read. Was Hell's Reach? I think it was the first book I actually read for 40k. So
wow, that's crazy. Like that was your start.
I've been into 40k for a while, but it's the first novel I actually sat down, bought, and read. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's slightly less scary. I was like, dude, what are you, like 10?
I mean, I'm a lot younger than Remleiz, I'll say that. But yeah. And yes, there we go. I'm going to join Remleiz in 5 minutes. There we go. Right, let's get started, shall we?
Don't worry, I'll make you head desk later. Don't worry.
Fine.
I'm in charge of the questions this week, so.
I know. Right, fine. Okay, in the news, and I'm starting at the top because, well, this is important. Orcs! Orcs. Yes, orcs, yes.
Something about orcs,
Codex.
was it?
Yes, the Orc Codex is out on pre-order by this point, and I'm hyped. Sorry. The orcs are my army. They always have been. Anyway, I'll calm down now. By the time of this episode going live, Speed Freaks should be out, so you'll get your hands on the Shock Jump Dragster, the Custom Booster Blaster, and all of that fun stuff. But the Codex now is on pre-order, and that means we get a look at all of the lovely clan cultures, I think they're calling them, as opposed to clan tactics, because that would just be too boring. At the time of recording, we've got 5 of them. We haven't got the last. I only really care about, like, 1, but that's just my personal bias creeping in.
I'm guessing you're a Bad Moon player.
No! Evil Sons. Wazdaka. Wazdaka has been my guy since the first Codex, the first thing I ever bought. I was so annoyed when they took him out of the Codex.
I'm sorry, the first Codex, did you say?
Yeah, the first Codex I bought was the 2008 4th edition Orc Codex.
I was going to say, because you didn't have the first Codex.
No, but the first Codex I bought had Wazdaka in it, and he was my favourite character from the start. So I've always been massive on the Evil Sons. But I'll be fair to the other clans, I'll give them some airtime as well. So, if you are a Goth player, which is probably most of you, then you have basically been given Daka, but for melee.
So chopper.
It's called no mucking about, but what it means is that every time you roll this unmodified 6 to hit, you get another hit roll. That's in melee and range if you're Goths, which is pretty nuts.
And remember, Gasgol's Goth.
Yep. They've also introduced teleporters as a stratagem, so you can teleport units of less than 20 power. That's cool. You also, Scarboys are back. The last time I saw Scarboys was in the Space Marine game. I think.
When was the last time they were on tabletop? Because I know they were in 2nd.
They weren't in 4th or 6th or 7th.
2nd might be the last edition for them then.
Yeah.
Because they were an upgrade for regular Goth boys.
That's what it is now. So they're basically like Biggins from Fantasy. So you gain a keyword, you gain a point of strength, so you become strength 5, but you can only mob up with other Scarboys. You can't put them with other units of boys.
Fair enough.
It's for 1 CP, so it's pretty good. But that's really nice because Wounding Marines on 3s, yes please. Yes, flipping please. Snake Bites. Snake Bites basically get a 6+ feel no pain save. And that's it.
I hope they get the Boar Boys back. That was the best thing about Snakebites, the fact they got to ride giant pigs.
I mean, they've got a squig truck.
But is that a giant pig?
You could probably convert
Is it a pig with motorcycle wheels?
No.
Bring back the cyborgs. We want cyborgs. The cyborgs were awesome, especially the lore surrounding them. Where literally they put like nitrous oxide injectors. So they slam a big red button. The cyborg pigs go into turbo overdrive. It was awesome.
Oh dear, oh dear. We also get a little bit of a look at psychic powers. So, Fist of Gork is casting value 6. An orc character model within 12 inches get +2 strength and attacks.
Ooh.
Holy flip. Is that strength 8 base or is that strength 7 base on a war boss? With 6 or 7 attacks? Base.
Well, it depends if they change the stats in the Codex of the war boss.
Yeah, I can't remember what they are in the index either, but my god. Wow. Yeah, fun. And then the crunch is basically ping every model in the unit for a mortal wound on a 6, and then on a 10+, do it again.
I remember the crunch, actually, from previous editions where you had a special template shaped like a foot.
Wasn't that Foot of Gork from Fantasy?
In 40k it was called the crunch. Because basically Gork would come down and crunch everyone under his feet.
I don't remember the foot template, I'll be honest.
It was from Dark Millennium, from 2nd edition, before your time.
Way before my time, because the crunch came back in 6th or 7th, and it was just like based on armor saves, I think. I can't remember.
Fair enough.
Then we have the Bad Moons, the one you thought I was going to play, jog on. Reroll 1s to hit for attacks made in the shooting phase. Boring. I'm not saying anything good, but it's boring. The Stomper's Grot Riggers are back, so they can regain D3 wounds a turn, and it has like 40 wounds. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
And they've massively upgraded all of its guns. Like, the upgrade from Index to Codex is insane. So, the Super Gattlers gain D6 shots per round. Super Rockets are now heavy D6 instead of D3 and have an extra point of AP. And the Death Cannon has gone from heavy D6 or 2D6 against big units to just a flat 3D6. That's a big upgrade. That's a huge upgrade. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, that's the shock rifle for the Dragster, which has grot gunners and targeting squigs, so you get like orcs hitting on 3s, and that just feels weird to me.
I miss the days back when orcs actually had decent ballistic skill. Like when Gasgol had ballistic skill of 7, those were the days. But that was also where you could give him a heavy plasma gun as well, so...
Yeah, well, times have changed. Now, the Evil Sons. Oh, the Evil Sons. So, basically what they've done for the Evil Sons is they've turned them into Age of Sigmar Slanesh.
Hey.
As in, everyone in the army gets +1 move.
Makes sense with Evil Sons, okay.
Speed Freaks get an additional +1 move, so they have the Speed Freak keyword.
So Speed Freaks get +2?
Yep. And all models in the army get +1 to run and charge rolls.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And they don't suffer negative hit penalties for running and firing assault weapons.
You can't really argue with that, can you?
And did I mention that the Deathkiller Wartrike has an aura of run and charge for Speed Freaks?
Oh, God. Alright, calm down, Wazdaka.
Oh, come on, give me this one. It's been... When does 8th edition come out now? A year? Year and a bit? Yeah, it's been a year and a bit, and Speed Freaks have never been viable. Now they are, and it's hilarious. Sorry.
It's alright.
And the final one that we've seen so far is the Death Skulls. So they've got a 6+ invulnerable save. No, it's not the same as the Snakebite one. Keep up. In addition, you can reroll a single hit, wound, or damage roll each time it shoots or fights, because they're lucky.
Fair enough.
And they also, all their infantry get the we overrule you on objectives rule, which is pretty cool to me. I forgot about this. There's also a stratagem where you get to blow up a tank and cover your units in its armor plating and improve their save, which I just think is brilliant.
So, basically, someone who wrote the Codex saw that conversion that someone did of that orc mob wearing bits of a rhino which could form together into the rhino and thought, yeah, we'll make that a legit thing.
Kinda. So if a vehicle's destroyed near you, then you can give one of your infantry units +1 save for the rest of the game.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can only do it to each unit once, but if you do it on looters, you might get it for free. You don't spend any command points. Because looters are just that damn good. Yeah.
Also, I apologise for the sound coming from my end. There's some idiots setting off fireworks for some reason.
I can't hear it through here, so I don't know how loud it's coming through on the microphones because I can't hear it.
Huh. You guys might be lucky not hear them, but it's very loud where I am.
Fair enough. But yeah, the orcs have got all of the flavour that I wanted them to have. I'm now just interested to see how powerful they're going to be. Because I think I might have said it before, I don't want the orcs to be tier 1. I just want them to be good, but not amazing. So I think we'll just see how they fit in.
Yeah.
But the flavour's brilliant. The flavour's just, so good. So good. I'm really looking forward to this Codex. Way more than I was looking forward to the Tau one, because, I don't know, when the Tau one came out, I just didn't really care all that much, or I stopped caring very, very quickly. The Orcs one, despite the fact that it's been a long, long, slow build, I'm still hyped about it, which is really good, I think. Oh, it's good for Games Workshop because they get to take my money. But, someone has to win. So what else have we got in the news? Now that I've had my Orcs moment.
It's the Black Library Weekender next week, isn't it?
Is it that soon?
I think so. I think Aaron might be about to answer this one.
I was tactfully staying quiet. What I want to know is, why don't you want orcs to be tier 1?
Because armies that are tier 1 get a bad reputation from anyone who's not a tournament gamer. So I don't know how closely you follow the tournament and gaming and online, that sort of community, but nobody likes Eldar, and very few people like Tau.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
I went through an edition of being a Tau player in 7th Ed, and people were just like, oh, you play Tau. Oh, yeah, you're just playing, it's overpowered. I'm playing in Farsight. What do you think I'm doing here? I'm playing 1 Riptide, no Ethereals, and I'm playing Farsight. What more do you want? No, you're playing Tau, you're overpowered. I don't want that with my Orcs. I just want them to be hilariously good fun with the ability to break some heads. That's what I want.
That's fair. That's a good way to be. I can get on board with that.
Yeah.
My friend Dr. Mark plays Eldar, and nothing he ever puts on the table in 7th edition was bad. Like, no matter how much he tried, because everything in that codex was incredible. So yeah, and I get what you mean.
Yeah. Do you play much?
I'm more of a fantasy player than a 40k player, to be honest.
Go on.
And I'm more of a Necromunda player than a fantasy player.
Good man.
So skirmish is kind of our level, because I don't paint very much. So yeah. Small gang.
Yeah, I feel like I should just leave you and Rem to have a Necromunda nat now.
That would take all night.
Oh, we've got time. We've got time.
Speaking of Necromunda, it just reminded me of a tweet I saw the other day that Josh Reynolds put out saying he wants to write a Necromunda novel and a squat novel. So I said to him, why don't you just write about Grendel Grendelson?
Yeah.
2 birds, 1 stone.
Great That is one of the best minis, like, in the last 10 years, I think.
It is an awesome
Is that
mini.
purely because it's a squat or because it's actually a good mini?
A little from column A, a little from column B.
Right answer. Actually, that's something that just crossed my mind. Would you want to write about Necromunda? Because I know that sometimes authors we've had on in the past have said, I'd like someone else to write about this thing that I like because I don't want to, or I wouldn't want to take it on.
Yeah, I tend not to write very often about the stuff that I really, really love. Necromunda especially, it's really nice to be able to, say to Andy Hoare, like over Facebook Messenger or whatever, like that I love his stuff, rather than worrying about adding to the mythos.
Yeah, that makes sense. Though I suppose that means you're not particularly an Emperor lover then, given Master of Mankind happened.
I think because I end up writing more about chaos, people think I prefer it, which isn't really the case. It's just chaos hasn't been explored like in the same way that the Imperial mindset has, so I end up doing a lot more of it.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Now, could we catch on the Xenos, please? Go on.
Speaking of chaos, there is one thing I actually did really want to ask you, Aaron, which is Night Lords related, so I'm sure a few people would appreciate me asking. Hi, Desimonia. So I know apparently there were some issues in regards to the character Jo Sahal from Lord of Night. I was wondering, if you ever got a chance and the blessing to use that character again, what would you do with him?
That's a good question. But I'd probably just play it straight the way he was playing Lord of the Night. Obviously, there was like some canon conflicts and continuity conflicts even back when Lord of the Night was written. A lot of readers, for example, took Sahal's viewpoint as the truth, and it was a novel about how he was deluded. I mean, so in the end, I ended up having a lot of my Night Lords still agree with him because I thought Lord of the Night was an excellent novel.
It was, yeah.
But I couldn't. I just basically I just play it as straight as I could. I did try and use him actually. I emailed Simon Spurrier to say, "Do you want me to put Sir Sahal in the Horus Heresy?" And he didn't reply. So I thought, well, fuck it.
Good answer. Good answer.
I suppose it must have been kind of disappointing not to hear back.
He's a couple of the other Black Library authors who know him or knew him from ye oldie days said that he's very much in the mindset of having moved on and moved above, gone on to brighter things.
Okay.
Fair.
So is it more like a thing like he's just discarded the characters he's created kind of thing? Or
he's working a lot in comics and he's doing stuff in television now, so more power to him. He's a busy dude.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are a Necromunda player, you're probably quite excited about the massive crocodile thingamajigger.
How good is that? It's so good. I'm still waiting for the Dulac. And they're taking forever, I'm sad to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Goliath croc is awesome.
So when's Escher going to get their big Chimera beastie cat monster thing? Not the fear cat, but the big one that's got like 6 legs and bat wings and scorpion tail and shit.
I'm not allowed to discuss release schedules.
Probably for the best.
Oh. I'm still waiting for Scalies to come out. I want to see the new Scaly models, see how they turn out.
My bet would be gross.
I'm guessing the Age of Sigmar crowd will lap them up as well, given Seraphon exists. And you were right about the weekend, by the way, Rem. It's the 3rd and 4th of November, so a couple of days after this goes live, I think. And
that's when your limited edition Spears of the Emperor book comes out first, isn't it?
It is. That's a terrifying prospect, because it's a lot of money.
How much is it?
I don't know. I've got I got my author copy of it the other day, and I was just holding this huge, weighty box, and I was like, "Yeah, this ain't going to be cheap."
I'm going to assume it's going to cost the same realm as that Gaunt's Ghost Warmaster one. That's like 85 quid. Would do a big Footlocker box thing.
That's probably that's going to be my guess as well.
But it seems like you've talked a lot, I think, on your social media about Spear of the Emperor. So it seems like it's a project you really enjoyed working on.
It's a weird one because I've honestly tried not to talk about it too much because there's not that much to talk about in the sense that no one knows anything about the chapter. And so I can't give any details like on Twitter or whatever. So whereas you can tease stuff like if you're writing a heresy story, it's easy to just say I'm doing XYZ and build up hype. But I've just Spear has just been a really weird beast. It's also the only book where I've started the sequel. I'm like halfway through the sequel now, and I have no idea what people are going to think about the first one, which has never happened before. I've always started sequels like long after the first one was released. So the whole process is weird.
Yeah, I think we've also talked to other people before about the whole Primaris thing and like how much warning you guys in the office were given about Primaris and how you had to suddenly adapt to, hang on, there's new Space Marines now, what the flip do we do?
Let alone Gilliman coming back.
Oh, this could take half an hour. I think there are different levels of heads upness. I knew about Primaris Marines over a year before they were a thing. I knew about them when they had like models for them, and they were like, "Okay, what do we do with these models?" In terms of Guilliman coming back, that doesn't really affect the spears that much because although they're in the Dark Imperium, so they're in the half of the galaxy where everything has gone to beep, and warp flight is super unreliable in the Dark Imperium anyway, but especially in their region of space, which is called Ilara's Veil. So when they hear stuff about Guilliman coming back, they're like, well, that's a lie. And then when they get evidence that he's come back, they're like, is he going to come help us? I'm like, well, no. So screw him. It doesn't make any difference to them. It's something that happened 100 years ago that is just another myth and legend in the Imperium, which is kind of how it should and would be in a lot of the Dark Imperium, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's a really nice thing that certain chapters are starting to get a bit more fleshed out, considering there's a few chapters out there that only have like one sentence to their name, like, this chapter is a loyalist chapter of the Space Marines. And that's it. And there's so many of them out there like that. I mean, I'm still waiting for my full Rainbow Warriors novel, but hey.
Oh man, someone had a whole plan for them. I think it was a 6-book series for the Rainbow Warriors that just never went anywhere. But they even had titles for the books and everything.
Seriously?
Oh, for real?
You have to tell me more about that.
I don't think I'm allowed.
Maybe off recording then. But there has been a lot. Like Silver Skull's got the Gildar Rift, the Soul Drinkers got their massive series. You did the Celestial Lions is part of the Armageddon stuff, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so many chapters, so much scope, and you almost have to wonder where the heck can you draw the line, because at some point you've got to stop writing about Space Marines, damn it.
Well, I suppose the good thing about that is that there's so many chapters with so many different characters. Like,
exactly.
It's probably, plenty of material to write about, the Minotaurs, for example, because I don't think they've actually been touched yet.
Badab War was all their stuff. I don't think they've got a novel, though.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Some chapters, I think you've got to be careful with them, though, because the mystery is what's interesting about them. Like the Minotaurs and stuff, and the Carcharodons. If you say too much about chapters like that, you defeat what's interesting about them. Like the Carcharodons and the Minotaurs aren't interesting that they wail on people and beat the snot out of them. That's kind of par for the course. They're interesting in terms of like how they interact with the institutions of the Adeptus Terra, and like their mysterious origins aren't particularly interesting. It's how they relate to and function in the Imperium. Like that's where the story is.
It's maybe not the same scale, but it's kind of like giving away the origin story of Alfarius all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Oh, well, right, okay, that's his entire mystique gone.
Yeah. I mean, are our lives really better that we know Darth Vader built C-3PO as a kid?
Oh god, I forgot about that.
Oh, can of
Yeah,
worms
exactly.
time. Can of worms time. Let's move on.
In fact, I will still say that Episode 3 was actually a good film.
Moving on.
Fair enough. So, in terms of other models from Forge World, Giant AOS Corn Dragon is a thing. Vorgoroth the Scarred, with the biggest whack-off model you've ever seen. It's so huge.
Sorry, you cut out what I got was the biggest whack, and I was like, oh, hang on.
the massive AOS Corn Dragon.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yes. I'm just saying that when it cut off and you said wang, I was like, ooh.
All right. Fine, my technical difficulties are amusing to you. Got it.
We all have to find our amusement somewhere.
Yeah. But yes, the Corn Dragon is nearly 400 quid. Just for context, it's
So about the price of a Warhound Titan, then?
Give or take. But this guy, I've got his rule. Actually, I'm looking at his rules right now. Let's have a look. 30 wounds, 3 up save, bravery 10, d6 damage, shooting attack, 12 damage 2s, d6 damage 3s, 2 damage 3s, 3d6 damage 3s. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, that's that 1,200 points. Yeah, okay, that's that.
And a
wow.
partridge in a pear tree.
Bloody hell. Okay, fair enough. In terms of power to price, worth it. But in terms of actual price, I can never justify spending 400 quid on a model.
But could he take Gilliman in a fight?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This guy could take Archaon, Nagash, and Alarm probably at once. He's a monster. Well, maybe not all three, but close enough. Oh, this is the other thing from Black Library. Inferno's coming back. There's some old, like the first 5 issues of Inferno are coming up.
Yes, I had them come back. I had them delivered today, actually. The reissues of the first 5 issues.
Oh,
Lovely little magazines they were. It's just amazing to see how many people who are actually still involved in Black Library were involved in those. Like you had like Dan Abnett and Gav Thorpe, just to name a couple of examples. Like there was some of the earlier Gaunt Ghost stories in there as well.
Yeah, you got Bill King, Gav Thorpe, Dan Abnett, and Gav Thorpe were the 5 that were reissued. So you've got The Last Chances, Gaunt's Ghosts, you've got Drek and Felix, and Sigmar in there. Pretty cool.
I just love that some of the pictures in there as well are like monochrome photographs of the old... Do you remember the old Inquisitor movie? You know, the one that Games Workshop did for Games Day years ago, back in 1996, I think it was.
I wasn't born.
Eliphas did a parody version of it on his channel. It was really weird because that was like had the really terrible CGI juggernaut of Khorne and the Khorne Berserker covered in spikes who you could not understand what he was saying because all you could hear was... it's like something from a Chris Barnes Cannibal Corpse album. But anyway, they were using like screenshots from those and the unproduced sequel films, Hive Infestation and Blood for the Blood God, and with like, bits of text underneath them was like, data files and stuff, which I thought was a really nice touch.
Okay, that's fair enough. I didn't even remember that movie because, like I say, it's older than me.
God.
Sorry, I'm young. But
Young whippersnappers, get off my lawn.
Shut up. But in terms of the newest of the new, at least at the time of recording this, Spiel or Spiel, depending on how you prefer to pronounce it if you're German, has just happened. And new shiny things. So we get a new warband for Warhammer Underworlds, the Troggoth, the Squidgen, or Bat Squig.
It's Squidgen. We refuse to call anything else other than squidgen. It's a squig pigeon.
Oh, yeah. The toxic spike shroom and the stalag squig. Yes, it's a squig that looks like a stalagmite. It's weird.
The Troggoth looks awesome, though, in fairness.
Oh, yeah. I could see an army being built around that. I really could. I hope they do push that range somewhere going forward. Because it could really, really do something cool for destruction.
That reminds me, actually. Has there ever been a Troll or Troggoth analogue in 40k? Because obviously ogres are ogrins and, halflings are ratlings. Has there been a troll equivalent? I don't think there has.
I can't think of a direct analogue, no. I mean, I'm willing to be corrected, but I can't think of a direct analogue at the very least.
I think, doesn't Ragnar... I haven't read the Ragnar books in a squillion years, but doesn't Ragnar meet one on Fenris?
I thought that was like a wolf thingy.
No, not in his trial.
The ice troll.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like a long time ago.
Yeah, now you say it, I feel like there was a Fenrisian ice troll.
Was that the story that had the fat space wolf?
Yeah.
Good times.
Indeed. But from Spiel as well, we get a new Blood Bowl team for death. So zombies and...
those are the zombies that are like old school Hollywood style, arms outstretched, wrists down, going... They look awesome. So good Mummy Blitzers, actually, in fairness.
Yeah, it's a pretty damn cool team. They're not my style of team. I wouldn't play Death, I'd play Naggaroth Nightmares, but I can appreciate the team. It's a cool looking team.
Yeah.
I really need to get around to playing Blood Bowl someday. Really need to do that.
I always found...
go on, sorry.
I always found going against Skaven Blight Scramblers to be a real pain in the ass.
It's Skaven. What a surprise. Not that I know Skaven are overpowered, I don't think they are, but Skaven are annoying. That's the way Skaven have always been.
Yep.
What's this other thing? The Rise and Fall of Anvalor, a new licensed board game, takes place in Akshi, trying to secure a new stronghold or rebuild it together at last to try and strengthen influence. Looks like you've got 2 dwarves, 1 Skaven Khorne, 3 people, Stormcast, and then a couple of factions I don't recognise. Looks like there's an Orc. Is that Scourge Privateers? Flip, if that's Scourge Privateers, that would be cool. Free Guild. I'm just looking at the box art here, trying to work out what's what. Okay, that could be interesting. I look forward to seeing what goes in there, because there could be some new lore, and I always like more lore.
Everyone likes new lore, except for people who start crying about the lore being new, for some reason.
Flip, I want to read that now. It's Order Serpentis. I want that now. Yeah, the Order Serpentis all like my sub-army behind my door again. I want that information now. Please.
Oh, speaking of lore, there's another thing I want to ask, because the Corax Limited Edition Primarch novel has been released this week, and since there's only a few Primarch novels left to go, Aaron, is there any in that series that you're actually writing?
That you're allowed to talk about?
No. What originally happened is they said, would you like to do a Primarchs novel? I said, maybe we'll discuss this when I have time. And then no time ever manifested, but they asked again. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do Angron. And then I thought, crap, I think I've said like all the interesting stuff about Angron's past already in Betrayer. Like that was the point of Betrayer. And then I got really scared, and then I missed the deadline like to even start the thing. And they said, we're going to have to give this to someone else. And I said, "Oh, thank God." And they gave it to Ian St. Martin, I think.
Yeah.
And then they said, "What about Kurz? Do you want to do Kurz?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever." And then
Prince of Crows.
I thought, I'd done Prince of Crows. And it was at the last Black Library Weekender. I was sat with Gav and Guy and John French. And I was just sat there with them, and I could feel like the blood draining from my face. So I'd like looked them in the eyes and said, "Guys, I've got nothing. I've got nothing that I can put in this." I said it all in Prince of Crows. That was the point of Prince of Crows. You know, it was Sevatar seeing, you know, the ups and downs of Kurz's origins. And I was like, I just don't know what to say. And then the deadline to start it came and went, and then the final deadline to start it came and went, and they said, "We're going to have to give this to someone else." And I was sad because I thought, well, I did want to do it, but at the same time, I was like, "Oh, thank God." Oh, thank Jesus. Because I have nothing for either of them.
Yeah. Actually, you've just mentioned Sevatar, and that brings me on to something that I just remembered again. You're good at jogging my memory. Was it your book that mentioned Sevatar's gauntlets? I'm trying to remember who had what. Because obviously there's a meeting with Sevatar, Kurz, Johnson, and Corswain, I think. And Sevatar's got the red gauntlets, and that indicates Kurz is going to kill him at some point. And it's like Sevatar just drops off the map and it's never mentioned again. And it's like, I'd quite like to know where that ends. Does Kurz kill him? Was the plan to have Kurz kill him? Or is Sevatar going to survive all of this?
It's a mark of like Bushido / mafia style shame. So at some point, either he's going to be executed by the Legion for the crimes he's done, or he has to commit ritual suicide.
Oh.
I mean, you can't just. This is the problem. Like with, if you, I was looking into a lot of the dodgier side of warfare at times, and you know when generals let slightly dicey regiments and battalions and squads stuff. You know, they've done a lot wrong in the field, but you let them keep going because they're so useful.
Mm-hmm.
And then you deal with them after. You deal with them after the war's done. And that's where that was the point of like when the Night Lords mark someone with red hands, we will deal with you later.
But you get to stay as first captain, and then the Legion fragments, and you're the most important person that we have left.
Yeah, although, I mean, he's in prison now, where he belongs. So it's all good. It's a happy ending.
And then Josahal takes over as first captain.
I don't know. I think it's one of those continuity snarls. Luckily, I've like avoided like saying anything about it because I don't like to contradict other stuff.
Mm.
That's fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting that you also bring up Betrayer and saying that you said everything you wanted to say about Angron in Betrayer, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Ram, but a lot of people's minds on Angron changed because of Betrayer. Or books in a similar time frame. And we've seen it with more Primarchs of late. So Perturabo, a lot of people have flipped on him and decided, you know what, he's actually quite a good character. And Lorgar, in his Primarchs novel, a lot of people have flipped on Lorgar. And it's just interesting that Betrayer seems to have been, or the books around Betrayer seem to have been that for Angron. So it's interesting that you said like, there's nothing more you had to say about him because you basically changed everybody's mind in one book.
That's that's high praise. I don't know if I don't know. The thing is, like, it's not that there's nothing left to say, but there was a hard line on saying all I wanted to say. If you see what I mean? Like, I think it's more interesting for you to like be with this character and see his struggles and like not really click as to why all of it's happened and why it's played out this way. But then you go back to his homeworld and you just see this glimpse of like, oh, like they thought this about him. They did this to him. You know, you don't find out every detail. You just see this like glimpse at what was really a crappy sort of past. And then you jump back away and then you've got that context, you know, like I think that's a lot more interesting than saying, this is what happened, and seeing it all through that character's eyes.
it kind of puts him on the level of a really complex, almost Shakespearean character in a way when you do the stuff like that as well. Because it turns him from just one of the more one-track, simple note prime books to one who's actually quite complex.
That's the thing. It's like, and the complexity isn't something you need to spell out. The complexity was always there. It's just you need to show flashes of it. I mean, you should always trust the readers. You know, readers aren't idiots. You show flashes of context around a character, and they'll get it. You know, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, I see it now."
Yeah, and it's one of the fun things of what we do as interpreters and storytellers and theorists, and taking your work and putting it into our own words and creating things based off of that, is opening people's eyes to some of the subtleties they might have missed, or trying to start a discussion about various things. And it is a really rewarding thing, and I can see how it really works as an author as much as it does for me as just a recounter.
That's one of the reasons I post so much on social media and like 40k forums, because I'm a fan. I love to talk about this stuff, and it's also nice to be able to like show some of the working, like the insight behind. Author X was thinking of Y at this time, and that this showed up because it's a connection to Z or A or B.
Yeah, and it makes our lives bloody easy as well. We'll just mention that as an aside. It sometimes makes our lives easier. Sometimes it makes it horrible because it contradicts what we were thinking. But, hey.
I just remembered something, because I've not actually read it myself, but could you explain about the Dude, Where's My Land Speeder story?
Oh. If I'd known that was going to go anywhere, I would have, I don't know, made it better. It was just we were talking about, on Bolter and Chainsword, we were talking about why Chaos doesn't have a bunch of stuff. And the real reason Chaos doesn't have a bunch of stuff is obviously because they wanted the model ranges to be different. And then you have the in-setting reason that Chaos has a bunch of different stuff, because like Chaos is poor. Chaos is extremely powerful, but Chaos is also disorganized and incredibly poor. So they don't have all their great heresy era technology, because for some of them it's degraded, and for some of them it's like they just found stuff that they prefer, and some of them are, have lost it to other warbands. And the central conceit, of course, is that they've made new stuff in the Eye of Terror, and they finally started showing that with like the Death Guard. With the Death Guards have a bunch of weapons that had no heresy equivalents, really. And then they originally started doing it, with Defilers, because Defilers are the first in the wave of this is what we're building in the Eye of Terror. So, yeah, Dude, Where's My Land Speeder was just like a joke. I didn't call it that, by the way. That was just the name it got when it was up on 1D4chat. But it was a bunch of the Chaos iconic characters discussing where all their cool stuff was going to go after they ran away from Terror, like the cowards they are. Yeah, it was. They were like leaving all their land speeders and thunderhawks and all the stuff Chaos can't take on the tabletop. And I remember when I saw it on 1D4chat, and I was like, ugh, if I'd known that was going to get off Bolter and Chainsword, I would have edited it and made it funnier. And
yeah, but you're not afraid to dive into do I use the word memes? Because there was the whole dress thing in the whole thing was going around Facebook at the time in, I believe it was Master of Mankind, and there was the and the supposed kitten reference, if it was a kitten reference to the Captain General or something like that. You're not afraid to reference stuff.
You're gonna hate this, but neither of those are references.
I think you just broke the internet.
Because I hadn't seen text-to-speech back then. I've seen it all now, and I talked to Alpha a fair bit on Discord. He's an absolute gem. I love that guy to bits. Yeah, we have like weirdly serious conversations. If anyone ever got a hold of our Discord logs, it's not like talking about memes and 40k. It's like Really, like, proper serious stuff. But yeah, no, so the kitten reference, honestly, it wasn't. And I wish it had been. And I've been so tempted to take credit for it. And the blue gold thing was purely because in Ian Watson's Inquisitor from like the late 80s, the mist in the webway.
I don't believe we've managed to bring that book up again.
It was blue. The mist in the webway was blue then. And the mist in the webway in all the Horus Heresy art from the card game was gold.
And so it comes back to the Ian Watson Appreciation Hour now.
I could talk about that book for longer than an hour. That man was a genius. Do you know what it's like to like go into a job and know that the best version of your work is already done? Like the best 40k novel has been written. Like no one's going to beat that book.
I think you just broke Michael.
I've been trying to get away from that book for about 7 episodes, and Rem never stops bringing it up, and then you bring it up, and it's like, come on!
Because it has some genuinely brilliant moments. I mean, say what you want about the book, but you won't forget it.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. It's just like, how are we going to get in like every single one of the past like 8 episodes? It's madness. Well, whatever. It happens.
We should try and get Ian Watson on the podcast.
I'm surprised you haven't already tried.
Tell him I love him.
I'll find his Twitter and then I'll message him.
Fair enough.
What's the term the kids use these days? Sliding into the DMs? Is that the right term?
I think that's about banging. I don't
know.
I think that's purely a banging road.
I'm just going to move on now.
It's for the best.
Agreed. It is definitely for the... in other little bits of Forge World news, so we can just jump back to that for a second. The Serup Tech Heavy Construct, the Big Necron Doom Spider thingy-McJib, that's out, or about to be out.
That is badass.
And it's got a hexagonal base.
Why?
No, that's going to make me feel weird.
Well, actually, more accurately, it has no base, but if you don't build it with a base, you assume it has a hexagonal one.
Have we gone back to Rogue Trader?
Well, it's not... It doesn't actually look like... Right, I'm going to go and find the schematic and I'll put it in our little group chat, and then you'll see what I mean. Just hang on.
Oh,
That's not a hexagon. Well, it is a hexagon, but it's not a very regular hexagon. Hang on.
Has it got... Well, how many sides are in a hexagon, Michael?
Well, it has got 6 sides, but it's a very weird-looking hexagon. Like, it's almost a... Well, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4... Yeah, it has got 6. I can count. Where is it? Here we go. There you go. So that's what you assume its base is if it doesn't have a base.
Oh, I get you.
Isn't that more of a trapezoid?
The Forge World datasheet calls it a hexagon, so I'm going to go with hexagon.
All right.
Hey, I don't write this stuff. All right?
Oh dear.
Also, while we're here, there's a couple of things there's one thing I do really want to talk about. Whether Aaron was here or not, I wanted to mention this. In the 500 Facts for 500 Stores article, number 206, I think? Or something of that order. 206. It flat out calls the Emperor a perpetual. And I think that's the first time it's ever been flat out stated.
Haven't we, known this since, 2008?
But, yeah, it's always been thought the Emperor was perpetual. But I never remember seeing it confirmed anywhere. Is what I mean.
But there was that one time when Alanius... Well, not Alanius, but when John Grammaticus said to Alanius Pius, you're just like him. You're a true perpetual. Him being the Emperor. And, the flashback he had in Legion when he first met the Emperor goes, we should talk, business for beings like us. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Okay, I just missed that. Just a lot of just got a few people excited, and I just think I just missed the fact that it had actually been flat out stated. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
I mean, it does lead to. I've seen a lot of people say that, like, well, if the Emperor's perpetual, why don't he just kill him so he can get off the Golden Throne? And my response is,
no.
My response is, Horus kills Alanius Pius, allegedly, who's a perpetual. Think about that.
Yeah, and the Emperor's obviously quite aware of the fact he can. Well, he may or may not be aware of the fact he can die, since he had Vulcan install a kill switch into the Golden Throne.
Was that the kill switch that Vulcan decides to plug in?
Yeah, the Dead Man's Switch, the Talisman of the Seven Hammers, which, if the Golden Throne fails, consumes Terra in fire. I think.
Well, he plugged it in and Terra was consumed in fire immediately. At least if I read Old Earth right.
But, yeah, I suppose the Emperor being perpetual, but then also having planned kill switches for if he dies. Obviously, he may not be 100% sure he is a perpetual. I don't know, it's weird. Just the fact that he's got a dead man switch on the condition of his death when he's immortal.
Okay, I think there are two relevant things to say about this.
Yeah, please clear the air. What's that?
Okay, the first is that it's not like perpetual TM. It's not like it's not how do I phrase this? A perpetual isn't necessarily this trademarked thing that is a definitive thing. You can just take it to mean someone who essentially just lives forever. It doesn't necessarily mean they have a standard set of like abilities or whatever, because over the course of the series you see some being created, and you see obviously some die, like for good. So it's they're not all created alike. Let's put it that way. There's only one emperor.
Perpetual being more of an umbrella term kind of thing.
Yeah. And in terms of the Golden Throne and the Emperor and the wider point, we didn't. Actually, what can I say without like divulging everything from the last meetings? It's okay. I've got it. Not everything was set in concrete at the start of the series. So there are the closer you get to the end, the more stuff tends to align with what the actual ending is. So earlier mentions, things were a bit faster and looser, so to speak. So there are references that now, I mean, if you ever read Horus Rising again, which is still a phenomenal book, but if you ever read Horus Rising again, there are moments in it where you go, what? Like it's the first time Loken ever sees a tech priest. And you're like, huh? These guys are as common as cars. So in terms of the Emperor especially, stuff wasn't necessarily laid down in stone early on. But the closer you get towards the end, it starts to align a bit better. I apologize if that's vague.
It has to be. We understand.
Yeah.
Because obviously Siege of Terror is just around the corner, however long that corner is. So you can't just say stuff that's going to get revealed in Siege of Terror.
Yeah,
we get that.
Exactly.
I don't suppose you're able to divulge how many books Siege of Terror will encompass.
No, that's the big one. The answer I give, which is hopefully diplomatic enough not to get me in trouble, is more than some people are saying, but way, way fewer than a lot of people are saying.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, some people have said 2 and some people have said 50, so you're pretty safe.
Yeah, I've personally been guessing it's going to be similar number to the Beast Arises series. But I'm probably way off.
Yeah, we're not going to push for it.
No.
Yeah.
But going back to Horus Rising, the only thing that I remember really making me go, huh, was when Sanguinius was being described as having black hair.
I really liked that. I thought it was really cool. I know, like we said that it's because he had ashes in his hair at the time, but it was cool. There was a nice play on the angel. Like I like it sometimes when there's like a dash of reality in the Imperial myth, because the Imperial myths are the interesting thing. I don't like to subvert everything. Often in meetings, I'm the one at the table who says, "Let's just play the hits. Let's just play it straight." But I did like that. I thought art-wise, and I tend to imagine things in terms of like book covers. Like, yeah, art-wise, that'd be cool as heck.
Yeah, and it's something that would go on to be realised in Asterath when he got put into miniature, because he's got black hair.
I was thinking more about the initial design for Dante outside of his armor from the Blood Quest comic from 1998, I think it was. That's what it reminded me of.
Good old Blood Quest.
That was a good story. I liked
that. That was grand.
When you had the Orc war boss possessed by a demon of Tzeentch. Darshul the Destroyer.
As you do.
I was so stoked when I found out that got an audio drama like a decade later.
Yeah, it deserved it.
I want that reissued in hardback. I mean, we've got Demonifuge, we've got Inquisitor Ascendant, even Redeemer got a reprint from the Necromunda reissue thing a while back. I want Blood Quest in hardback. Please.
The way to get that is just to ask them.
Would you rather have that or the Gaskell origin story?
I want both. I already tweeted Guy Haley asking if he could do it, and he said he'd be interested in doing it, so...
No, you've got to ask Black Library. That's how they decide what gets re-released.
I will spam their contact page.
That's fair enough.
And say that Aaron sent me.
Yeah, they'll love that. Our most unreliable freelancer sent you? Well, of course.
But who also probably has shifted more units than nearly anybody else we employ in the last 10 years.
There's a packing order, yeah.
Okay, if you'll indulge me before we go into our Q&A, there's a couple of quick-fire things that I often try and ask authors.
Wait. How is there a Q&A? You didn't announce this.
Our comments leave us questions anyway, but we always try and announce Black Library people in advance so they get special questions in. But we couldn't do that.
I'm with you.
Okay, so project you would never want to work on even if they gave you carte blanche to do it.
Oh, wow, that's a really good one. Jeez. I'm not very big on the Scouring series, the idea of a Scouring series. And I know a lot of people are, but I genuinely don't think there's very much to say. I think there are some incredible moments in the Scouring. But in terms of a meta-narrative, you've got stuff like the Iron Cage, which would be breathtaking, and you've got stuff like the Codex Astartes Crisis, with the Imperium literally on the threat of another civil war.
Yeah.
You've got some incredible moments, but in terms of the meta-narrative, a lot of it would have to be invented. There's really not that many hits to play. And Scouring is essentially the story of the traitors just running away. A lot of them didn't hang around. They ran. So there's not quite as much. I mean, the traitor legions, a lot of the rebellious planets were put down and, brought back into the Imperial fold. But I think there's a lot less going on than people really think there is. And if there's one thing I really don't want to see padded for the sake of sales, it's the Scouring. Because the Scouring is the start of the Imperium's golden age, and you should leave the mystery in some stuff. I already think the Horus Heresy series is too far towards the side of banishing a lot of mysteries. So okay. I'd much rather they left the Scouring alone. It's not to say I wouldn't do it, because if it said, "Hey, do you want to write the Iron Cage?" I'd be like, "Okay, give me some time to think about that, because that would be rad." But yeah, overall, that would be the one that I'm umming and ahhing on. Honestly, we haven't even given it any serious thought. It's just something that occasionally comes up in Horus Heresy meetings. Like, if we ever do a scouring series, would we save X for that?
I assume it'd be something's.
Project you. Oh, sorry.
I assume your views would also be similar towards, say, going more in depth about the Unification Wars.
That just won't make anyone happy. Actually, do you know what? It won't make anyone any money. But it won't make anyone happy, because what's interesting about the Unification Wars is just how exotic and weird it is, and how it's not 40k. It's nothing like 40k. So the IP overlords will probably be reluctant to commission anything with it anyway. But also, anything you write is going to be mostly your own jazz, and it's not going to have many 40k keystones. So I think a lot of people will be like, well, I wasn't expecting this, and therefore they might not like it that much.
Yeah, because really the only 40k things you'll have are the Emperor, the Thunder Warriors, and Custodians. That's probably about it, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
That makes sense. Okay. Project that you either missed out on the chance to do that you really wanted, or would bite off Black Library's arm to get to the front of the queue for doing?
I desperately wanted to write about the Blood Angels in the Horus Heresy. Desperately. But then again, so did everyone. But for a long time, the Heresy was organized in terms of you could reserve stuff, especially if you'd written about them in 40k, you could reserve them. So I had the option of reserving the Night Lords, and I was like, no, anyone can write about the Night Lords. I am 100% cool with that. But the Blood Angels, about half the legions were licked and touched in that way. So the Blood Angels were one of them. For a long time, people couldn't do anything with them because we were all waiting for Fear to Tread. And even after that, I had several ideas. The antagonist in Betrayer was supposed to be the Blood Angels. It was supposed to be, originally when I conceived that, it was supposed to be the World Eaters and the Word Bearers against this massive Blood Angels task force led by Amit, who would later go on to found the Flesh Terrors.
Oh, I love Amit.
Yeah, he's rad. But again, it couldn't happen because they were reserved. So that's been my big thing. I would have loved to have written about the Blood Angels in the Horus Heresy.
Okay, and then the second half of that is, if there is a new character event, or no, not new character, but a character or event that's we need someone to write about, give. Is there any, since they've gone and they're done now, is there anyone now who's if Black Library proffers, we want someone to write about this battle, I will fight every other author to get that book?
A postscript, actually, before I go into this, a postscript to the last point is the Blood Angels will still show up. They're going to be big players in the siege, so we'll see. Good. But yeah, sorry, to answer that question, the Badab War.
Oh,
because the Badab War was always the Horus Heresy's little brother, but also its more credible brother. The Horus Heresy is great, but it's an origin myth retrofitted now as a story, and that's awesome, But I think it also gives holes at times, whereas the Badab War isn't. The Badab War is the defining Space Marine civil war, based entirely on how the Imperium functions. Every single faction in the Badab War has their own legitimate reasons for fighting. And even on the same side, even the secessionists, all 4 chapters in that have completely different reasons for fighting against the Imperium, and they are all perfectly valid. However, they're all perfectly wrong as well, because is any reason really good enough, and do the ends justify the means? And it's the same on the loyalist side, all the chapters that are brought in, and the Inquisition when that's brought in as well, some chapters are doing it just to try and minimize casualties, like the salamanders, and some chapters are doing it to settle some old grudges against other chapters they hate, like the Flame Falcons. And others are doing it purely to protect Imperial shipping lanes, and they can't believe this is getting so out of hand. And others are doing it because they sense glory. And then you have others jumping in just because their higher-ups are telling them to, and they just are laying waste to the secessionists, like regardless of the oaths of the Adeptus Astartes. I mean, every single faction in that war has a credible reason for fighting it, and I just love the Badab War. I absolutely love it. I mean, also on a personal note, it's Alan Bly's best work. His 2 4-year-old Imperial armor books they were very much his love letter to 40k.
Fair enough. That's a much longer answer than I was expecting, so thank you for that.
Oh, while we're on the topic of periods in 40k to be covered, or wanting or not wanting to be covered as novels, what are your views on the Reign of Blood?
Ooh, yeah, that's something that I think would make a really cool miniseries for. In one of my first Horus Heresy meetings, the two Allens, this is Alan Merritt, who is the old head of IP, and Alan Bly, they were kind of like explaining in meticulous detail that the Imperium isn't just the Horus Heresy and the Dark Millennium. That's how a lot of it comes across, especially in the tabletop. But it's like this series of like ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. The Horus Heresy is the big one. But there were others that were equally as big and equally as, oh God, it's all going to end, that the Imperium might have almost completely suppressed or that just haven't been explored yet. And the Reign of Blood was a pretty major one. Another one would be the Nova Terra Interregnum, where like an entire segmentum just goes, yeah, we're not Imperial anymore. Bye. We've got our own emperor.
I was about to mention that.
Like that kind of thing where the Imperium is like just rocked to its knees. And I love the idea of it. Kind of, it's cyclical. All of 40k is cyclical in like the slow decline. And I just dig the idea that, yeah, like a mini series of the Reign of Blood. My only hesitation with that would be, in some ways, that suffers in a way that the Badab War doesn't. The Badab War is about millions and millions and millions of people and staggeringly different factions, whereas in a lot of ways the Reign of Blood is about 5 or 6 people. And that always, I hesitate with series like that where a few people decide everything, because I think it can undermine the scale of 40k.
Yeah.
If you look at something like the Gathering Storm, like the Gathering Storm books, I thought there's a lot of great stuff in those, and I loved the Iandan one. But it's also about like 5 or 6 characters, and I struggle to sort of hook into that because it's just not on a scale that I can quite equate to 40k's realism.
Yeah, and the other challenge I think with the Reign of Blood, particularly earlier installments, would be politics, because Van Dyer didn't seize the power by force.
Yeah,
he did it through politicking, assassination, and then he ran as a tyrant, yes, and he was stopped in war, yeah, but he won it through politics, and he was ended by one bloke talking to one woman, and then you have the infamous conversation that may or may not have happened, and then bolt round the face.
Yeah, but to counteract that point, if it's written well, it'll still be an intriguing and engaging story. I mean, all you got to do is look at, say, in Watchers of the Throne, the chapters from the point of view of the imperial politician, or from the Beast Arises series, and pretty much anything with, Draken Vangerich.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying it can't be written well. I'm just saying about that whole idea of like the disconnect of what 40k is about, because 40k is supposedly massive, endless meat grinder of death and destruction, and all of a sudden it's Game of Thrones politics. I don't watch Game of Thrones, that might not be a good reference, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But at the same time, there's always, the opportunity to expand on some things in the Reign of Blood to maybe add some more conflict, obviously in an organic way, not just shoehorn it in for the lulz.
Yeah.
Striking a balance is the key, I think. And again, and I don't mean to harp on about this, but it's, again, something the Badab War does perfectly, because that conflict doesn't start because Space Marines are in a bad mood or Greek god equivalents are having personality disorders. It starts because various sections of the Imperium aren't getting paid their tithes, and so you have like trade princes investigating. And then you have trade princes getting their ships and their fleets shot up, so they then send in Space Marines to investigate. And that balances everything. It's like crunchily political and grotesque amounts of warfare. Whereas the Reign of Blood, in some ways, is almost
too clean.
So yeah, it's like a really clean division between the two. That's almost too stark. I mean, you can fudge it up, and I'm sure like it'd be brilliant. And I'd love to see more political 40k stuff. I'd absolutely love that. But you'd have to handle that series very, very carefully because it's just centered around too few people as it is, and with too clean a division.
And you brought up Gathering Storm. Just one more thing. Primarchs. Obviously, Gilliman's back. Morty's back. Magnus is back. In tabletop and lore, they're back in a big way. We've had reference that Angron, Lorgar, well, maybe less so Lorgar, but other traitor Primarchs are on their way back. Now, I'm not saying, I don't want you to divulge, are they planning it, but if you are sat outside Black Library, are you wanting more Primarchs back on either side?
That's a difficult question. Bear in mind that I can't. I have two default states of mind when it comes to talking about the IP. I can't criticize Games Workshop because I would just get in trouble. So I have two states of mind. I say nothing, which is, if I don't like something, I just don't talk about it, or I'm positive about it. And thankfully, I like the overwhelming majority of decisions, especially when it comes to the law. But yeah, if there's something I don't like, I just don't talk about it. Which, incidentally, as a PS, is why it's always so ridiculous when someone online says, "Oh, he just has to be nice about this because it's just GW." No, if I don't like something, I'll just not say anything about it. Yeah. So to answer that question, point A, I would say the traitor Primarchs haven't really ever gone. They've always been around. They've always been. It's good to see models of them again.
But more meaning in terms of like their being very
key players.
They've been around in the background. Pert helped with the 10th Black Crusade. Angron had a go at Armageddon. They've had like one crack at it separately on their own, and now we're going to potentially see 7 of them at once.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, I guess because in my head I've always kind of assumed they were around a lot more than snippets we saw. It's not really a change in my mindset. The Imperial side, however, I just hope they tread extremely carefully. And I'm sure they will, because I talked to some of the guys in this studio a lot. And other BL guys who have like various levels of investment in this stuff. I'm not a big meta plot guy. I don't really care what a few characters at the top of 40k are doing exactly. I don't care what Belisarius' call is doing, so to speak, because it's irrelevant to the wider Imperium and it's kind of irrelevant to the wider setting. In terms of Guilliman coming back, I like a lot of it because it highlights some of 40k's themes. I do worry that the thing is, like, pointing out what doesn't work in the Imperium is very low hanging fruit. It's like what all the memes are about, and it's just obvious basic stuff. It's if a character's pointing out how disappointed they are in the Imperium or how far the Imperium has fallen, it's what's the deal with this airline food of 40k? It's like I kind of hate that stuff. So those are the memes that I just don't think are funny. They're just so tacky and obvious.
Yeah.
And Guilliman, if handled improperly, could go down that line. I don't think he has yet. I honestly don't think he has.
I've just now got this mental image of Guilliman sounding like Seinfeld.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one we want to avoid. A lot of the Imperium's themes, or the settings themes, really, the inexorable, like, the grimness of it, and the decay of endless and eternal bureaucracy that just overrules human life. All the stuff that makes the Imperium, as this thing that's developed and rotted, but still going by pure momentum. 10,000 years after it started to die, 10,000 years after it failed, just momentum keeps carrying on.
Yeah.
Just that could be compromised by people really, really like Primarch models. Let's make Primarch.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll go that line, and Phil Kelly's a genius. That man can spin gold out of absolutely anything. And I do really like the way Guilliman's come across now. I just, at 4 a.m. sometimes with night sweats, I'll sit up in the middle of like my bed and go, "Oh God, what if X?" I don't think X, but
it's got to be careful it doesn't like turn into the Great Crusade 2.
Yes. The sad thing is, I think a lot of people would love that, but that's never been what's interesting for me in 40k. But that would make a bank. I don't think it will happen, but the biggest reason it might is that it would make bank. Horus Heresy 2.0 would make bank.
There is one question in regards to products that I don't think anyone's been able to answer. What does Demon Perturabo actually look like? Because he's the only one who hasn't had any art that I can recall.
Yeah, even Lorgar's only got like that thumbnail when he's got the 3 horns. Those Lorgar and Perturabo right now are kind of in that flux where Chaos Undivided meant something different in editions 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8 than it did in like 3, 3.5, a bit of 4. And so a lot of what the concept of a demon Primarch of Chaos Undivided was pushed and nudged at in the edition and a half where it doesn't really mean that. So who knows exactly what they are now or what they look like.
Fair enough.
I'm sure they look rad. I mean, I wouldn't complain at seeing models of them.
Yeah.
Although this is probably
do.
Yeah, no, I'd be all up for that. Although this is probably a weird thing to say before the siege, but I wanted to kill Lorgar in the Siege of Terra. I wanted to cut him down like a dog.
To be fair, I think until his Primarch level, nobody would have complained.
Then he pops back up as a demon going, surprise!
Because like there was very, very little post-heresy lore of him as a demon prince. There were just like allusions and suggestions by people who literally lie every moment of their existence. So I liked the idea that he died in the heresy because it would have given this really, really cool, satisfying arc of character development where he'd, started off as the one Primarch who didn't know his place and didn't want to be a warrior. He wanted to,
be a priest,
be an empire builder without the war. And then he learns the truth, and the truth sucks, but it's the truth, so he sticks with it anyway. And then he gets corrupted by it because that's what chaos does. And then, right at the end, when someone shoves their sword through his heart, he's like, "Oh, I was wrong about the whole thing. Whoops."
The only unfortunate thing about that is now you have to contend with that story Gav Thorpe wrote in the Sons of the Emperor anthology on Sakaris, where he fights Korax. Because he's a demon then, and so's... Well,
I mean, you could just pull a Fulgrim.
No, I mean, I abandoned this like about 2 years ago.
Oh, fair enough.
It was a long time ago.
You could still pull a Fulgrim, though, and just have it as like the demon just sort of steps out of his shell as he dies. So,
no, it worked once.
Fair. Yeah, can't do it twice. But still, screw Fulgrim.
Also, I want to thank you for your line in that book for having Sevatar call Aramin a patronising Terran shithead.
That was hard for me because Araman is like one of my absolute favorite characters. And I was like, oh, but Sev is he's a prick. So he's
Yeah.
They're both pricks, but one is a bigger prick.
yeah, no, that's true.
Anyway, shall we do some questions quickly before we wrap up?
Yes, I think we've got time for a couple of questions. What's the term for Eldari computers?
I don't actually remember this.
I remember recalling the term matrices, but I could be wrong.
Like, matrix is a common word with the Eldar, like a webway matrix or a hollow matrix, but I don't know if it applies in terms of computing.
No.
Isn't it tied into the Infinity Circuit
I think it is, yeah.
of a craft world or a ship? I'm honestly not sure.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that Gav would know, like that.
Yeah, we could do with just an officially published Black Library Eldari Tau Orc Dictionary and Glossary. That would help.
Okay, if you could have one figure made of a unit that doesn't already exist in-game but does in lore, what would you pick?
Oh, that's easy.
Go on.
Yeah. Whatever gunship it is that picks up drop pods after the fight.
I'm just going to come out and say Thunder Warriors.
It's got to be, Thunder Warriors is the obvious one, I guess. They'd sell like a mother thing.
Yeah.
And that one cast from the Armor Through the Ages thing doesn't count.
Good dodge, good dodge. I can't think of one off the top of my head, I'll be honest.
Okay. Another Eldari question. Why don't they build another city in the webway like Gamora?
Because the webway's a mess.
Because it's full of demons. And I'm sure like a lot of them have tried, to be honest.
Though I think with the craft worlders particularly, the idea of settling down again, given what the Empire became, what Comorra became, it's just like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah. There's a lot of Eldari questions this week. Is it possible that the Eldari pleasure cults worshipped Slaanesh before her birth? I'm pretty sure that's flat out stated in the novel Farseer by William King.
And even if it weren't flat out stated, I'd say it's probably very true.
Considering there was a demon prince of Slaanesh, on one of the Eldari homeworlds before Slaanesh was born.
Yeah, they wouldn't know it as Slaanesh because Slaanesh wouldn't have a name, but it would be
the pleasure or something.
And besides, a god gets powered up by worship, so yes, duh.
Which faction should get their own codex?
Groot?
Oh yeah, I'd buy that in a heartbeat.
I still say we should have a 40k version of Dogs of War, so basically a 40k mercenary list. So you can incorporate, a whole bunch of other races. You can include, the Loxatl, Groot, whatever.
I know it's not original, but I just really like dwarves, so I'd love to see squads in whatever form they take.
Yeah,
squads.
I mean, 2 years ago I would have said Gene Stealer cults, but we've got them, and they are flawless, so that's all good.
Okay, question from Michael. How do you catch a shot from a lasgun and crush it in your hand? There's the head desk.
David Geimer, why did you write that? Of all is the science.
Moving on.
Yes, please.
What happened to Sigismund's body and the Black Sword after he was delivered to Terra with Abaddon's declaration of war?
I think it was probably enshrined somewhere, or maybe given to the Black Templars.
Yeah, I know in High Marshal Behemoth in Beast Arises actually has Sigismund's sword.
Yeah, I get the feeling the sword would have stuck around either as a relic or for use by... To be fair, I'm surprised it's not the sword of the High Marshals. I'm surprised they still don't use it as the sword of the High Marshals in some way, given that High Marshal had it.
Yeah.
It would almost be cooler if, for 3,000 years or something, it was kept in, some museum or, some arsehole imperial noble's like viewing gallery. And it's like, oh, look at this! It's the sword of the first High Marshal. And then like the Black Templars drop Pod in and take it back and lay waste to his family. Actually, you know what? That might make a good short story. I'm just going to write that down.
I keep it alongside the skeleton of Rogel Dawn encased in amber. And a bunch of Imperial Fist fans are crying right now. One moment. There's a lot of questions here. Another Eldari one. Is Talon still on good terms with the Eldari?
We've had no indication to the contrary, I think.
Yeah, I think they are.
But then it's been a damn long time the humans could have very easily forgotten. Like, it's been 10,000 years. That's a lot of generations of humans since the Battle of Talon.
Yeah. Do the Thousand Sons have any dreadnoughts or hellbrutes after the rubric?
Yes, they totally do. Buy models of them. That's one of those things, and this is something that some fans tend not to like, but it's just a reality of like what 40k is. There are some times where we go, okay, but what about X? And this is a perfect example. What about Possessed in a Thousand Sons army? You know, what about Hellbrutes?
Mm.
And if there's a model, that means it has to exist in some capacity. And I remember we were talking about Hellbrutes in the Thousand Sons a couple of years ago when me and John were planning various parts of the Black Legion and Araman series. And it was like, yes, but no, even though it makes no sense, yes, there has to be. And like that's as good an answer as you're ever going to get. And it's weird to like work within those parameters, but that's the deal.
Fair enough. Okay. If the Predators were in 40k, would they worship Khorne?
I don't watch those movies.
I'd probably say they'd be more Slaanesh, considering they're all in it for the joy of the hunt.
There's crossovers. Well, it depends, because Khorne sort of stopped being about martial honor a little bit. It still is, but it sort of leans more now.
Pretty much just mindless slaughter. There's not really much martial honor in mindless slaughter and butchery.
That's what I mean, but there used to be hints of that sort of stuff with Khorne. And
yeah,
it's sort of...
Yeah, back in 1988.
Fine. Carry on.
I mean, this is back when we had, Queeful the Magnificent, the Skaven Demon Prince of Khorne.
Jesus.
Yeah, I kind of miss multidimensional chaos gods. I miss multidimensional chaos gods.
Okay. Do you think they'll allow vehicles in Kill Team?
No.
They might do if they up the points a bit.
I mean, they've added commanders, but that's pushing it.
Well, what about something like, bike squad, like, a bike kill team? You can have a biker gang. That would be pretty cool.
It's just that the advantages that such a team would get in both defense and speed, and their weapons generally are a little bit better than everybody else's.
Which is why you make them a crap ton more expensive.
Oh yeah, sure, they'd have less numbers, but in a game that small, the ability to basically never get shot because you're that fast and tanky is probably very dangerous.
I'm sure they'll introduce some special rules like, to make it easy for people to counteract them as well, just to balance it out.
But yeah, you'll notice that the commanders, they didn't add the Tau Commander.
Yeah, well, he's a cut above, a commissar.
He is, but they didn't add any the Terminators, because they were all Primaris heroes, they'll have power armor. They didn't add anybody with a 2-up save, what in-game would have a 2-up save. So, I don't know. It would be a tricky one to do, and I don't think they should do it, personally.
Okay. Does the belief that the Emperor is a god help him in any way, or does it create a chaos version of himself in the warp? Not necessarily a god, but like a twisted reflection.
Oh, I love this Emperor Chaos God debate.
Probably does both. It's there are. Yeah, the straightest answer is probably that it does some form of both. When you get into the metaphysics of this, and actually, hang on, I could just reach across my desk, and I have here a handout from the last Horus Heresy meeting where Gav brought in some pre-Rogue Trader metaphysics for how the warp and the Emperor function, like before Rogue Trader. So it's... I'm sorry it's a boring answer, but it's probably both. And there'll be a cool story in finding out what the crappy version of the Emperor would be, like following him a certain way and what that does in the warp. Ultimately, it would probably feed the Chaos Gods in some form or another, because most things do, though.
Yeah.
I've now got this image in my head of the Star Child versus the Chaos Emperor in the warp, basically being, the Imperial version of Gork and Mork punching each other in the face constantly.
Actually, that brings up the ever-present debate around the Legion of the Damned, living saints, and the whole "are they demons of the Emperor" theory. Now, I know we're getting a Celestine novel soon that may or may not talk about it, but I don't know if it's ever been discussed, or is it just something that every author personally subscribes to one way or another? I don't know.
It's mostly down to interpretation, but it's also something we've had to talk about in the Heresy series very, very recently. Obviously, because we were talking about what the hell the Emperor is. So it's the short version is that there will be answers like that are set in stone for some authors, and stuff that we'll adhere to in the Horus Heresy series. But when another author who may not have been privy to that publishes XYZ instead, it doesn't necessarily make them wrong, if you see what I mean.
Everything is canon, not everything is true.
Yes, that's pretty much it.
Okay. If the Primaris Marines are from the Heresy, could that explain what happened to the formations that went with Traitor Legion officers like Nathaniel Garrow?
My biggest bugbear with the Primaris Marines, in terms of how they received by the fandom, is that they're not really that. They're not really just that. People see the Primaris Marines as just dudes who were in stasis from the Heresy and are now like intruders into the chapters, and there's all this tension. Mm-hmm. But that was now like 100, 200 years ago in terms of the timeline. Mm. So they're just Space Marines now. They're not dudes who were in stasis from the Heresy. This is how chapters make Space Marines a lot of the time.
Oh, speaking of the Primaris, with the Warhammer TV thing, that when Primaris were first introduced, when they said characters can be upgraded to Primaris.
Yeah.
Is there an official stance on that now? Because pretty much everyone I've asked has said, like, wait, what?
Oh, that was a very bad time. Okay, I can't say. I've signed 3 NDAs, and one of them specifically applies to my Warhammer TV work. So the short answer is that was not true then.
Right.
Okay. That's not like a then. It's not that. It's like at that point in time, that was not true.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, if there's NDAs in play, we'll shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, let me put it this way: there was literally nothing published anywhere where that was true.
Yeah, that's why I think everyone we asked got confused.
That's fair enough. Were the Terrans in the Space Marine Legions more likely to go traitor or remain loyalist? As in the Raven Guard, most of the Terrans were more loyal to Horus, but lots of the Terran Death Guard were killed in the Great Betrayal, for example.
generally, I can only really use the Death Guard and a couple of others, but you'll note that a lot of the big guns of the Traitor Legions are Terran born. So Khan, Ahriman are both Terran born, but then Typhus and Abaddon are from their native worlds. I think it pretty much goes by Legion and how influential the Legion's Primarch was. Because bear in mind, in the Raven Guard, Korax was a twat to the Terrans. Korax was a dick to the Terrans. So they were logically going to go with Horus because Korax was found so late.
Because Korax was just a big old racist.
Was a racist and was found late. Whereas with Mortarion, I think he was found a bit earlier, and he stamped Barbarous all over the Death Guard. Well, the Dusk Raiders as they were. So it made sense that the Terrans weren't quite on the same page as Mortarion. At least that's how I run it in my head.
Fair enough. Now that the Horus Heresy is being finished up, what would you like to see explored next? I think we've already discussed this, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm just going to say that.
We've done that.
Actually, no, I have a slightly less pithy answer than Badab. I think the novels function at their best, excuse me, when it's authors exploring the Dark Millennium through their own lenses. I prefer that overall as a reader. I prefer that to marquee series like set in the past, like before M39, etc., etc. So I would like, if I had my way, I would be like, I would assign 80% of books to be, you're an author. I like your writing. I would like to see you describe 40K to me in your perspective, through your lens. Go write good books about it. I wouldn't be like, now we have to do the Reign of Blood, or whatever.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense, because obviously if you go back to those older periods, you there's a certain thing where it has to end here. The scenario has to be this, so that the rest of 40K makes sense. So you're kind of boxing the authors in.
I think, no, that's true. And I think there's a lot to be... I think most of the best books Black Library's done are set in the Dark Millennium with occasional flashbacks. I certainly think that a lot of my... it's really difficult to say, but a lot of my favorite books are ones like that, where it's a 40K novel with resonance from previous eras, rather than this is exactly what happened in a previous era.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
It could be a personal taste thing. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Will Michael ever get a role in TTS?
Ask Alpha, don't ask me.
Have you asked?
Not very loudly, because I appreciate Alpha is insanely busy and has probably got about 8 episodes ahead in his head, even if he hasn't got it pen to paper. So it's like, I should just leave him to it, and if he wants me, then I'll oblige. But I'm not going to go banging on his door asking, because that might screw up some of the writing or plot threads.
Fair enough. I wonder if Aaron will ever appear in TTS, since you're good friends with Alpha.
Yeah, he's asked. But I don't know. TTS is awesome, and I wouldn't want to screw it up with my bland droning.
I get that as well.
Okay. What we're looking at time. I think we've got time for one more question.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of time.
Okay. As a noob to Warhammer lore in general, is it feasible to learn just through the Codex?
Yeah, those are the best places.
Yeah, I think it depends what you want out of your learning. So if you want to learn the basics of who's, what, where, and a little bit of extra flavor text, the Codex is ideal. Because it gives you, right, this is what this faction does, this is where they live, this is what they've done Here are some famous characters. Have fun. But
It's like a textbook.
It's kind of like reading it is a textbook. But there's an argument as well for saying, well, actually, we're not going to tell you where to start. You just see what looks cool and explore, because you'll find what you like naturally rather than being shoehorned into the viewpoint of, okay, I've read the Space Marine Codex, therefore, okay, I should read more about Space Marines. You get a bit more freedom if you don't use a codex to guide you. But I think a codex is probably the best place to start.
I think one of the best places for someone who's getting into it to start is probably just to get the rule book, because that gives you pretty much a brief overview of everyone. So that way you can look through it and say, oh, this faction looks interesting, I want to read more about them.
I think that's a really good point. And like a lot of people forget that, because once you've been into 40k for God knows how many years, you don't tend to read the fluff in the rulebook anymore. But like that some of that is excellently written these days. I still think God's own edition was the Codex Imperialis from 2nd edition. Book it took no perspective on like who was right or wrong. It just said, this is how the Imperium works, or rather doesn't work. This is how incredibly complex everything is, just like a brief overview. These are all the other races. And I read that and I was like, it just changed my life. I was like, I love this. Before, I'd loved the models, and it's so cool that Space Marines were shooting each other in corridors. Like, yeah, cool, Space Crusade is great. And then I read the Codex Imperialis, and I was like, this is just life-changingly rad.
Yeah, I had a similar... Oh, sorry, go on, finish your point.
No. Go.
I had a similar experience with the AOS 2 rulebook.
Yes, that's a good example.
Because AOS's lore was so poorly fleshed out, or, well, underdeveloped in certain areas. Cough destruction, cough most of order, cough anything that wasn't Stormcast. I got bits of insight through Daughters of Cain, Net Deepkin, and I got my first look into what AOS can do.
Yeah.
But then the rule book came out. I was like, all of a sudden, okay, what?
That's a great example.
I also liked how in Codex Imperialis you also had quite a few short stories spread in as well.
Yes, they are great. Just like the text box insight into like half a page of what it's like to be hanging out with a Space Marine, and then I think it was in Dark Millennium. It had like 2 or 3 pages on what it's like to be inside a Lehman Russ tank. I still think back to that, the atmosphere of being in that tank with those guys. It was just so evocative, and that's what I absolutely loved about the source book. And the good thing about the new edition's rulebook is that it's going back to a lot of that feel.
Yeah. I like how a lot of these codices and rulebooks these days are actually making reference to a lot of older fluff. Like in the Death Guard Codex, for example, they mention Foulspawn, who hadn't been mentioned since the 2nd edition Chaos Codex.
Yeah. That can backfire, though, because I was feeling extremely smug that I'd put in Zangor in my Black Legion series. I was like, yeah, I know old lore. I'm ace. And then like the models came out like 8 months later. I was like, God damn it. I was being original and I was pure.
In fact, you did get there first.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. The nostalgia game is a fun one to play. I think the best nostalgia is when you put in a reference like you had with Zangor. It's like, yeah, I get this. If anyone else gets this, then fair play to you. But it doesn't get in the way. It's a reference, but no one would know it's a reference unless they knew it was a reference.
Yeah. That's the best way to play it. You got to try and be subtle.
Yeah.
You got to take out as many of the trademarks as you can.
Yeah.
So when are we going to get a squat novel?
I would be stunned if you saw a squat novel at all. Like in our lifetimes.
Yeah, again, I think the only one who will ever get any sort of story dedicated to him would be Grendel Grendelson, because he has a model. Yep,
that's probably likely. Also, Xenos novels in general are quite difficult to do, because if you're fast, that's fine. But the fastest novel I ever wrote took me 5 months. On average, it takes me over a year. The last 3 or 4 I've done are taking me a year and a half. So Xenos novels just don't sell anywhere near the rate that, say, a Horus Heresy novel or a Space Marine novel, like from one of the classic chapters, does.
Yeah.
So I would have to basically not earn anything for a year and a half. My kids would starve and die, and yeah, it would be a whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. Like if you're Josh or Guy could take the hit of a Xenos novel.
Yeah, and it's like I've always wanted a novel that is basically the Hiver life of a slice of life novel in the Tau Empire.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I want that novel so bad, but I know it's so unlikely to happen.
Just read Crisis of Faith by Phil Kelly.
I know it's Crisis of Faith helps, but I just want to see life on the ground in the Empire through the eyes of a gay Vaser. If you need to put an Imperial spin on it, fine. But I want to know how society works in Xenos empires. I want to see the politicking, the internal structures, like how the rankings. Oh no, the ranking systems work, but yeah, Xenos lore is so interesting. But I understand your point of not everybody goes for it.
I just realised that Gav Thorpe must be an incredibly fast writer, considering every other novel he writes seems to be Eldari.
He is. He's
Gav Thorpe.
Yeah, I mean, he invented most of their stuff. So it's strange, you never do anything for the money. Sure, I know a couple of Black Library authors who literally don't care what they're doing as long as they get making bank. You never do anything for the money. I've only ever been asked to write three novels, I think. One was Hell's Reach, and I was brand new. I was halfway through my second novel, Soul Hunter, and I was like, yeah, sure, you want me to write about one of my favorite chapters? Yeah, of course I'll do. The other two were the Primarchs novels that I obviously couldn't end up doing because of time and a lack of imagination. So you never do anything for the money, but at the same time, you can't be like, yeah, I'll take a year off work and just hope for people like the one I always talk about to my editors is I really, really, really want to do a Dark Eldar love story about this Romeo and Juliet style thing about these two Dark Eldar houses that are just liquefying each other in the streets. They're just murdering each other's agents and slaughtering each other on the markets of Comora, and it's like a love story between two scions from these two different bloodlines. And I think I'd love to do that, but it would sell 5 copies and, review at 1 star, and my kids would starve. So, you have to take it as it comes.
Yeah, I get that. Because that does sound very, very awesome, just for the record.
That being said, didn't someone actually write for Black Library a short story about a Drukhari trying to win the love and affection of another, and he's like, what is this emotion I'm feeling? I haven't a clue what this actually is.
Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't be like love as we recognize it, exactly. Murderous obsession / possession. It would be a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll put that one in the maybe column.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And given the time, I think that will be enough for the questions for now. So if we didn't get round to your question this time, leave a comment below with the word question, and we'll hopefully get to it next time.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to apologise for not covering so many, because we had such a fantastic discussion anyway of all the other stuff, which I wouldn't trade out what we've said this episode. It's been really insightful and fascinating listening, and I can't wait to edit this together and re-ingest everything I just heard.
Oh, you guys.
No, but it's always really interesting to have the Black Library people on, because you get some insights into the workings in the office. Obviously not much, because you're not allowed to talk about it, diddly-diddly-dee. And then some unique views on how novels come together, how you like to talk about it on the message boards. And it is just a really interesting experience of seeing behind the fourth wall, or just beyond the curtain of what we're used to seeing. I just find that really, really fun to do, and I hope that the viewers agree with me on that.
I hope so. I live to serve.
Yeah, careful, or they'll be hammering to have you back every episode, and well. But I think, unless there's anything else to add or ask or comment...
I'd like to say thank you for having me on. It's been an honor.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us.
You're more than welcome.
You'll be invited back for one special or another at some point, I don't doubt. Because one of the things I'd always love to do is do like a Black Library conference call podcast where we get you, Josh, Gav, Robbie, whoever else we've had on, and just get all the Black Library people in one room and just sit back, relax, and let it go.
There'd be so much fighting, so much thinly veiled passive aggression.
Right, we need to do that. We're doing that. We're making that. I'm making that happen. I don't care now. I want that to happen. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in to episode 56 of Adeptus Podcastus. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If we missed your question or you have a new one you wish to ask, let us know in the comments below with the word question, and we will endeavour to answer it as soon as we can. But for now, this has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And also some guy.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and goodbye.